Peace, and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio, place where
Was really
knowledge is
good.
born. This is your host, Knowledge Born Allah, and we got the legend in the building. Let me zoom this in. Bang! You understand what I'm saying? We got the legend
Don't zoom
in the
in too close.
building.
Y'all don't get number 4 here today. I'm on my cell phone.
We got the
Was
legend in the
really
building.
good.
We got a serious sort of topic to discuss today, and I had to bring in the hip hop high priestess. You understand? The hip hop high priestess. She like that
That's what's
shit.
up.
Yeah, the hip hop high
That's
priestess
what's
is
up.
in the
That's what's
building
up.
today to deal with this subject matter. So, without any further ado, it becomes my honor and privilege
Yeah.
at this time to introduce and present the others, the hip hop high priestess, IFe JIe in the building. Wagwan, sis.
Was really
Wagwan.
good. Do the knowledge, son.
Who the
Can y'all hear me
fucking
all right? You
knowledge?
can hear me good?
Yeah, yeah, you
Do
good.
the
You
fucking knowledge, yo.
good.
I love
Word.
that, man. I love being able to get on here and talk what we talk about, man. Thanks for having me another time, man.
Uh,
Definitely.
it's love. So I saw a post, you know what I'm saying? You tagged me in the joint, and I was like, this is an interesting conversation in light of recent situations. And we could go
Yeah.
back as early as Scott LaRock. You see what I'm saying? On forward, in regards to deaths in hip
Mm.
hop, whether it's, MCs, whether it's DJs, whatever the case may be. And this, convenient attribution to the art form. You see what I'm saying? So let's,
Yeah.
I asked the research question: is hip hop and violence synonymous with one another? You see what I'm saying? So I think it's a great conversation to get into. So whenever, however you want to get into it, we can get into it.
Yeah, well, I guess just for everybody to get caught up, who may not have seen the post that prompted this conversation. Y'all know I'm out here on the West Coast, and there
Hmm.
was a news report that I was sitting at home just watching on the local news station, and they had posted something in reference to Pop, what's his name, Pop Smoke, and he was murdered in his home apparently. What I understand to have happened, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've understand to have happened is that, he had posted up something on Instagram
Hmm.
and kind of was, maybe flexing, not no shade to the flex, but just repping for some stuff that he had gotten from gifts or whatever from some folks. And in the post, his address was shown. And so some folks, ran into the house, end up robbing him, and in the course of the robbery, shot him and took his life. And so
Hmm.
the news reporters went on to, public network reporting about this particular murder. And
Right.
in the course of them, reporting on it, they made the commentary: is hip hop synonymous with violence? And they started to make references to other artists who have lost their lives, obviously very senselessly. Folks like Nipsey Hussle, particularly in Los Angeles, that's a thing. People are still grieving for Nipsey Hussle as well as for Kobe Bryant, but just the senselessness of Nip being in his own space in the front of his store and being murdered by someone who was reported to be his comrade. I think the jury in the hood is still like, he wasn't, you know what I'm saying? But it was reported to be someone that was, to be his friend, not to be someone to be assumed as an enemy. And so, they compared that particular murder with the Pop Smoke murder. And then they start making references to other folks in the LA Times, which a friend of mine, shouts out to Brandy Kane, um, put me on to in terms of XX Tentacion. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but X, when he was murdered, I believe he was murdered, and just a reputation of young artists being senselessly killed in the course of them being, in their career. And so it just was a real tragic kind of incident that happened, but it resonated with me because there was an association automatically that hip hop was the catalyst for all of this, and that hip hop was the, one to blame for the violence, and it prompted me to start to ask, like, is that a fair assessment to say that hip hop is the reason for the violence. And living in the context of this society and the culture of violence that is very indicative of what American culture has become to be defined as, is it fair to say that hip hop is the reason why all of these young men have been murdered and all of these crimes have been committed against, hip hop artists throughout the years? Like you said, there's a history of, you know, things like this happening. But I think it's a point that we really need to unpack so that we don't, number one, we don't assume that what we see on TV and the narrative that what TV tells us about hip hop is 100% word, because there's always some context that needs to be considered, And number two, to really be able to say honestly where the root of this violence really comes from, without just throwing hip hop underneath the bus. So, I know I took a long time to say a quick answer, but that's the truth, is that's what prompted this conversation. Pop Smoke died, and then they want to blame it all on hip hop.
Yeah, I think it's been a conveniently artful kind of strategic push this narrative, even with some of the social commentary, and even if you go back to Dolores C. Tucker, you understand, even with the instituting of the warning labels, you understand what I'm saying? like this is something we
Right.
put warning labels on things that are harmful for you. You understand what I'm saying? So is black self-expression, just to pull it even closer, is black
Mm,
self-expression synonymous with violence, you know, in the context of
right.
America. You see what I'm saying? Like, so if you look at
Right.
the black social justice outcry of the 60s, of the 70s, even earlier on, the insurrections, what prompted the insurrection and what prompted the outcry. You see what I'm saying? So is there a precursor to the violence? You understand what I'm saying? Is there a
There you go.
precursor to what it is, and what are those particular catalysts in regards to that? So if we look at this art form, if we look at this science that we look at and we call hip hop, if we look at this cultural expression that we call hip hop, what are these things that we can readily identify as, precursors in regards to, you know, the perpetuation of violence?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't know if it sounds digitally to you, but I can you kind of going in and kind of going out, but I caught the majority of what you were saying. But is that I hope that this is not going to affect our broadcast. But the truth of the matter
No,
is
good.
that yeah, no. The truth of the matter is that black expression has always been something that has had to talk about violence, because
Mm.
that's a part of what we experience. When I think of the first thing that comes to my mind is Nina Simone, Mississippi, goddamn. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain aggression that has always been coupled with black expression, because we are experiencing a constant state of oppression and white supremacy, which automatically puts us at a violent disposition. I was driving down the street the other day, and this white guy was trying to trip out, in the car behind me on some road rage stuff. Everybody in LA got road rage, man. You know what I'm saying? And there's this moment of just like, move, move, move. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm trying to live peaceful, but the energy that's around me brings me to a certain space where I have to respond, or I have to be mindful of the way I respond so that I don't become violent myself, And so there's some of us who are able to disassociate with that violence. And then there's some of us that are not. But I think one thing that is really indicative of hip hop is that we talk about it. You know what I'm saying? It's something that is hard to ignore because it's our reality, And I don't know if in talking about it, it's fair to say that there are some people who glorify it. Some people who really will say, I wish a nigga would. I wish, I'm gonna run up in this house and shoot your mama and shoot you, you know what I'm saying? Trap or die, nigga. These very intense concepts that we do embrace and we do glorify and we do take ownership of, because in so many ways there's what am I trying to say? That becomes even our weapon, to be able to say that you are being violent to me and I can return the violence, not only in the way that you're giving me, but I'm gonna take it to another level and go over crazy on you. you know? And now I think that that's been one of the struggles. And obviously, I'm not a black male and I don't tend to try to talk to the black male experience, but I am raising black men. And I know that there's a certain element of manhood that wants to be recognized, that doesn't want to be taken advantage of, that you're not going to sit up and, you know, do me. You're not going to do me, right? Not only are you not going to do me, I'm going to do you and I'm going to show you who the man really is. So some of that identity is wrapped up in our craziness of being oppressed people, and there's a moment where I say that imagine living life with a foot literally on your neck. Quite literally, you wake up in the morning and there's a foot on your neck. Everything you do in the context of that foot on your neck is going to seem crazy. The way you eat is going to be crazy because you laying on the side and you trying to eat with a foot on your neck. The way that you love is going to be crazy. The way that you breathe, the way that you take care of yourself, everything in the context of oppression is insane. It's insanity. So it's difficult for me to say hip hop is the only reason why you have such violence in the society and even in our music. But the conditions that create this type of reality, to me, those things are really what we need to unpack, what we need to acknowledge, and really what we need to blame. Not just hip hop. And I'm not gonna take away from the artists who do glorify, because there are some artists that absolutely do that. They glorify the hell out of, violence and misogyny and all of these isms. But the truth is that this is a reality. This is indicative of the lifestyle that we're living, being here in America. And hip hop, I would argue, we have a part to play in it because we can absolutely use our music to heal. But there's another part of it where we ain't the only ones to blame.
You hear that? You hear that scholarly transition right there? I would argue that. I love the comfortable balance that you got going on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I can hear you, but I can't hear you as strong as I want to.
Uh, Let me try this. Let me go out and come back in and see what's going on.
We're saying this. We're gonna tuck everybody back. Everybody probably to the red school room.
Okay, let me go where I'm back, where I'm at. Yeah, I think my man Knowledge Born is trying to get the mics right. I'm gonna take advantage of having the live audience because I think we live right now. And y'all know the MC and me is gonna make sure there's no dead time. I'm getting ready to say, come on now, because I'm gonna get this start popping off at the lips.
Hey,
Okay, there we go.
for it. They was ready for
There
it.
we go. There we go. We
Um,
rolling with it today, man.
yeah, this situation in regards to what's being presented, there is an onus. You are looking at European executives that capitalize off of destruction that they create. You're looking at the Hegelian dialectic. So we
Hmm.
have the art form. We're responsible for the talent. We're not responsible
Yes.
how it's marketed, mass produced, or distributed. No different than any other thing that we provide. You understand what I'm saying?
Right
We're
on.
not in control of that. So the onus has to go into what's popularized and what's being supported on the other end. You see what I'm saying? So they create the
Yeah.
demand and they got the supply. You see what I'm saying? We just out here putting their work out there. You understand what I'm saying? And
There
that's
you go.
you know
There you go.
that's the of the first quadrant in regards to the detriment of the black mind and the black psyche, in regards to what Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. and our ancestor Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, you know,
Mm.
uh, talked about in regards to the three-tier situation, the 9 areas of pupil activity. You see what I'm saying? So when you're talking
Hmm.
about uh, entertainment, education, and economics, that first tier right there is foundational on how everything else is systematically used. You see what I'm saying? This is a family business. Dr. Bobby E. Wright said that this ain't no system. This is a family business. This is black people versus white people. We got to be real clear about that kind of language. It looks systematic, but it's business as usual. Families create and institute
Yeah.
systems. You understand what I'm saying? So when we're looking at
Right on.
entertainment being first, on some of the list, entertainment is first. So if you can be preoccupied with entertainment or create an addictive type of quality of seeking to only be entertained. So this controls and funds and fuels an economic source and an education source. So what are you being taught? You understand what I'm saying? How is it being financed, and by
Yeah.
who stands to benefit from you being in a state of constantly needing to be entertained? So now what psychosis presents that has you in a state to where you have to be entertained all the time. You see what I'm saying? Like you have to be in that space. So if these things didn't exist in our society, you know, it wouldn't be talked about. You see what I'm saying? Now, promoting, glorifying, this is all attributed to a clever psychological marketing design. You see what I'm saying? So they put that package together with the bows and the ribbons and shit and push it out there. So they like, oh, I got to have. I got to have. That's an addiction. That's addiction language
Yeah.
right there. I gotta have. I need my fix. I need me some hip hop fix. You understand what I'm saying?
Man, you
So,
going super glitchy again on me. You going glitchy again.
uh, it's the content.
Is it me? Is it me? I'm like, is it
it,
me?
nah, they working. Now you understand? We talking about some real stuff.
You said
You
they
know?
working.
Yeah,
Boy, you
they
ain't
gotta work.
lying, because we did not have these problems last time.
Right, right. So,
But no, we calling it out. We calling it
right.
out. I can hear a little bit of what you're saying, but I want you to say it again so that I can get a better sense, because I think the connection might be a little better right now.
All right. So I'm saying in regards to the psychosis that exists with these addictive behaviors, when it says I gotta have, so because you say I gotta
Mm,
have, somebody has to give you, what you're asking for. You see what I'm saying? In some form. So, you know, they say life imitates art. Art is imitating life here. You see what I'm saying? So it's creating a narrative
yeah.
to where, you know, the pictures that are painted on the silver screen or the green screen are now being hyperdimensionalized to create a reality in life. So
Right
now
on.
life
Right
is
on.
dictated by this, virtual commercial type of image. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
it's you're looking to that, and that's an artful tool, and it's an artful tool that can be used properly, but we see its misuse more so and in a
Yes.
higher
There you go.
frequency than its actual use. You see what I'm saying? And
There
then
you
it's like,
go.
okay, hip hop. You sit there and say we go back to hip hop. So we using the sex, drugs, and hip hop versus when it was sex, drug, and rock and roll. You understand? You see the impact
Right.
was different. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
this is all of those things that are there. These are the things that these family businesses profit off of. You see what I'm saying? So they profited
Absolutely.
off of this, and now they profit off of it from a financial situation with the loan and the interest on the loan and your ability
Hmm.
or inability to pay it back. So
There
now
you
it's like,
go.
okay, it's a triple dip. You use a
Tripled
song,
it.
they own the rights to the song, they own the rights to the clearance for the sample. You understand? So they're ensuring that they're shored up and they're giving you, 2 cents on the dollar, 2 cents maybe, two
Yeah.
or 1 cent. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's the
Yeah.
that's the game of the debt system, how they continue to do it, and they use you to put whatever agenda that they have for our people in your record. You know what I'm saying? And it's a record. It's on record. They
Yeah.
have a
No.
record of you saying these things. So in the event you try to change your image, they come back to you with this shit right here. You see what I'm saying? So that's the record,
Real
for the
talk.
record.
Real talk. And I again, I can hear you, but it's going in and it's going out. You have moments where I can hear everything you're saying, and then there's moments where I hear nothing that you're saying. But I get the point of what you're saying nonetheless, because I think at the end of the day, there is an accountability. Oh, thank you. There is an accountability for hip hop artists to be able to use the tools that we have to heal and to liberate our people. I always say, and this is not something that the language that I got on my own, but language that was given to me, is that music is the vehicle that's supposed to take us somewhere. And usually that first destination is to a spiritual, a spiritual space that can be comforting to us, that can be healing to us, that can connect us to ourselves. And then there's a opportunity where people can co-opt that vehicle and they can get in the driver's seat and they can take that vehicle anywhere they want to go. And so there is a moment where hip hop artists, content creators have a responsibility to be able to say, I'm going to use this vehicle to take us somewhere that's productive, and as you mentioned, there exists an industry of people who have also acknowledged that this vehicle is a fly car and it sounds good and it comes with a lot of perks and things that are appealing to the senses, whether it's a visual satisfaction, whether it's like a physical feeling, because when you get that song that pops up and it got that beat and it go and it resonates to something in us, in our souls, it's open up chakras we didn't even know existed. We resonate with that music, we resonate with that beat and that pulsating kind of sensation that's in hip hop music. When people start realizing that, oh, I can use this because there's a market for it, there's people who want to consume this, and I can manipulate that consumption by just acknowledging the very visceral type of appreciations for hip hop music without getting into the soul of what hip hop really is. This is when you start having people say things like, is hip hop to blame for our violence? Because they are minimizing hip hop to something that's very superficial and not recognizing the complete body of energy that comes with hip hop music and hip hop culture, which is at the end of the day, an iteration of a long legacy of how African people have always used music to take us somewhere else. So a part of me kind of feels like the artists have a responsibility to say, I'm going to put this song out, I'm going to create this music, or I'm not going to create this music. And then there's some of us who have a contradiction because we say, well, we want to be successful and we want to enjoy the capitalist benefits of being hip hop artists and the monetary success that comes with that. But I'm willing to sacrifice that. Thank you. I'm willing to sacrifice that for these violent, misogynistic type of lyrics, And so there's a moment where hip hop artists definitely have a role that they play, because if there was nothing to sell, then the industry would be without any product. So there's some of us who are creating the stuff that they are selling at the end of the day. And we can't deny that. That's the beautiful thing that I think about hip hop culture, is that we have to acknowledge the internal contradictions that exist within, it. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of those contradictions, is that as much as we want to say that the industry has a responsibility, in terms of perpetuating certain crap, artists have a responsibility as well to be able to say that y'all have a voice. We have a voice. And if that voice is not used for a balanced energy, then that voice is going to being used for our destruction. And that's the thing that I think is more of a conversation, for the news and for the media platforms like the newspapers that are reporting about hip hop violence. And they even put something in the LA Times, is that hip hop is now synonymous with violence. Like, get the fuck out of here. When did you start? Who are you to say that association is even viable? There's no reason for that to happen.
One of our background
parents, I am.
Have you inside the classroom?
Oh, they want us inside the classroom?
Over closer here, because camera is going to see all of this. So
you're
still in frame.
Okay. They didn't give me no real instruction. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were still. It was the last minute. Even here, we'll be fine. Deeper, like closer to that.
Sure, I'm gonna go sit on the red bench right now. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm moving around. My son is out here living his best LA life. I can't really say where we at, because they'll sue me, I guess. But
yeah,
Phil's out here doing big things, man. So we out here trying to roll with it. But yeah, right. So that's the point that I want to make, and I think that was the whole opportunity for me to be able to be on this platform with you, is to say it's just not just hip hop. That artists definitely have a responsibility to say, what kind of music are you putting out there? And if we glorifying violence, if we glorifying sexist ideology, then somebody's going to use that against us one day. Right. And they're going to be able to not only make money off of it, but they're going to see the literal seeds that have been planted manifest in things like the murder of Pop Smoke, in the murder of people like Nipsey Hussle, which is a whole nother conversation. I don't really want to get into that, because Nip's death was way more intricate than a lot of people really want to reveal and really want to talk about, you know? And I'll let the, Netflix documentaries and the specials and all of that come out because, that's going to come, you know what I'm saying? As the
Yeah,
smoke settles, people are going to start seeing the intricacies of why Nipsey Hussle really was murdered, but
we're
there's no
coming up on a
coincidence in
year.
terms of,
Yeah, we're coming
come
up on a
on,
year.
man. And when you go back to Crenshaw and Slauson, when I drive down Crenshaw and Slauson now, gentrification is in full force, bro. And so that's not a coincidence. That's not a
Right,
coincidence. That cornerstone of Crenshaw and Slauson, that's the neighborhood that I grew up in. I went to Crenshaw High School. I know what that neighborhood used to look like. I know that
right.
the US organization used to have their center right there up the street on 54, damn near right up the block from there. So it's no coincidence that these type of spaces have been compromised by forces that are calling themselves neoliberal and opportunistic. You know what I'm saying? That shit is dangerous as hell. And so
Dangerous.
Nipsey's death was way bigger than just hip hop. You feel me? So it becomes a disservice to just throw it under the bus like that. It makes us come off like hooligans and, just on some thug shit. Like we just robbing and killing for no reason. There's a certain
There are
pressure bust
politics.
pipes. You know what I'm saying?
There are politics that's involved in it too. You see what I'm saying? Like in LA really put that down in regards to the solidification of how real the politics are. You see what I'm saying? That like there are politics. And certain things don't happen without sanction. You see what I'm saying? Like that's real. That's a real thing. So,
Man,
looking at
I
some.
can't hear nothing you saying.
Oh man, let me try this one more time. All right,
Come on,
we'll try.
we got to do better. What are we doing? Why is we getting so much static this time? This is really crazy.
You know it.
All right, family. So in the meantime, while my man Knowledge Born Allah gets the audio ready and get it nice and tight for us, y'all know what we talking about. We up here on Do the Fucking Knowledge Radio, representing one time Knowledge Born Allah IFe JIe. Man, it's a whole little scenario going on. We ain't never had this
It
much
is
glitching out.
so
Shouts out to my
right.
boy Red Fidel for tuning in. We couldn't even what the hell is going on today.
Oh no. Can you hear me though?
Look, I see your face, but I can't hear nothing you saying. And I'm assuming that the viewers that hopefully are chiming in with us that they might be hearing this same kind of craziness that they can't really hear it the way we want to hear. But this is the first time on my phone, so I don't know if that has something to do with it at all. But I definitely, while we working on the audio and getting shit tight, I would encourage everybody to take a second and look at the rhetoric that's being put out there about hip hop and violence for yourself. Because obviously this is just my opinion, my humble opinion, you know. There might be somebody who absolutely disagrees 100% with me. That says, no, hip hop is completely accountable. Hip hop is completely the one to blame. This is a part of what these artists bring on themselves. You talk about violence, you glorify violence, and then you get mad when violence happens to you, which is a very universal principle about what words sound power. What you speak about absolutely has the potential to manifest in your life. So there's all kind of different opinions on this, but I think it's important for us to be very self-determining when we talk about hip hop. We need to be able to say what it is for ourselves. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with acknowledging the contradictions that exist within hip hop. In fact, I think that's one of the more beautiful things about our culture is that we can acknowledge, we could put it on the table and we could say that there's some contradictions in there. You want to say that violence is not hip hop, but then violence talks about hip hop. Hip hop talks about violence all the time. And so there's some responsibility that the artists have, and there's some responsibility that everybody else has. Okay, I might have to.
Can,
I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna walk away.
can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
You can hear me? Okay, good.
What about my sound now? Does it sound the
You
same?
hear rolling, rolling. So I'm gonna get the hell out the way before they kick me off the set. Rolling. All right.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this whole situation. I'm trying
Oh
to
yeah, it's
get
definitely
this
a conspiracy, bro.
thing.
My whole internet just dropped out of nowhere. Bada bing. Yeah, they not trying to hear this knowledge. We doing the fucking knowledge today, yo.
Do the
They ain't
fucking
trying to hear
knowledge.
about it. Man,
Oh man,
I can't hear you, bro, and
you
I
can't
don't
hear
know
me
what's
here
happening
neither.
right now.
That's
I can't hear
crazy.
you, man. I think we might need to try again. I don't know. What you think? I can't hear shit you saying. Having trouble connecting. This is often caused by an unstable interconnection. Move closer to your router if you're on Wi-Fi. Okay, let's see.
Can you hear me?
This what you call some bullshit. It is. I'm like, wait a minute. I've never, but you know, then again, I'm not at home. I'm not settled. I think I'm back online though. Hold on, let's see. Man, when I tell you I'm hiding, I'm hiding. Trying to stay out of trouble out here. Yeah. Okay, how are we looking now?
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So yeah, I was making reference to hood politics. You know what I
Now
mean?
you back digitally.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I heard that. It is crazy.
Yeah,
That's why I'm like, is it me? Is it my phone? Is it my connection?
this is crazy. So we might as well wrap and just come back and do a part two.
Man, it's going in and out, bro.
So let's just call it, and we could do a part two.
I can't hear nothing. I know you talking though.
If you can hear me, go out and come back. Like go out and come back in. Let's see.
Okay, call me back. Is that what's happening? Okay, let's just wrap it up and do a part two. Okay, sounds good, fam.